Okay, brilliant. Fantastic. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I think that we are live on Facebook and we're live streaming our special event about interculturalizing the course book with large classes in Gaza. And we're here today with, I'm here today with special guests, Ashraf Kuhail, Wafa Hudair and Hussam Soliman will be joining us in a minute. Now, Wafa and Hussam are two brilliant teachers in Gaza who work with very large classes, and they took part in the intercultural link-up sessions that we did. They were the teachers at the other end doing this fantastic work, working with these large classes, arranging the link-ups. And Ashraf Kuhail, as we all know, is a supervisor in Gaza, and he's the person who's actually made all this happen by making all the arrangements, supporting the teachers in Palestine, arranging everything. Now, we are going to share some slides, and I'd like to just do that now, if it works. There we go. No, I'm going to stop again because I've just made a mistake. Okay. Can you see that all right, everyone? Yep, good. Okay, so I want to just give a little bit of background for those who don't know about what the Hands Up project has traditionally been doing and ways in which we're going to change what we're doing from September. So you may already know this, but for a long time now, we've been arranging intercultural link-ups between volunteers in other countries and classes in Palestine. So here's a wonderful volunteer of ours, Alex, in Russia, and she's doing an intercultural link-up with a small class in Palestine, now in Gaza. Now this is great, this is wonderful work, but traditionally we've worked with quite small groups of highly motivated learners, and often students who want to learn English and are good at English. Another way in which we've done kind of intercultural link-ups or intercultural work is through theatre. So for the last 2 years, we've been doing intercultural remote theatre. So here's the winners of our competition from last year. 2 girls in the Czech Republic, 3 girls in Gaza, and they made a play together. They rehearsed it and they practiced it and they got it ready to be performed, all interculturally, all through Zoom, not having met each other. So there's lots of learning that can happen in this type of activity. But of course, it's a very small number of students who can participate in such activities. And it's not working with the whole class. So I'm going to hand over now to my colleague, Ashraf, who's going to talk a little bit more about the context of large classes in Gaza. So over to you, Ashraf.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Good morning, everybody. It's been a pleasure to be part of this amazing experience to check whether it's possible to solve such obstacle, larger classes. Let me just start by giving the audience an idea about how do school look like in Gaza or in Palestine in general. First of all, we have very crowded schools with more than one floor, like 2 to 3 floors. Inside the school, there is about 1,000 students inside, 2 shifts, so 500 children or students for each shift, morning and afternoon shift. One of the biggest problems that we are facing here in Gaza is the large numbers inside a class, the overloaded schedules, I mean, for the teachers. One teacher can teach 300 students in one school because he's teaching more than one class. Inside a class, there is about from 40 to 50 students inside a class, sometimes plus 50. And as a previous teacher, it's been like a nightmare for me to control a class of 50 students and to successfully achieve the goals or the outcomes of my lesson that I'm teaching. Because, you know, it's impossible to give 50 students the opportunity to participate while I'm having a limited time, like 40 to 45 minutes for each session. So it's been a nightmare for me. I felt like it was like an impossible mission to give students the opportunities to be part, I mean, all students to be part of a session. So I'll be talking about the facilities at first. As I told you, we have a crowded schools, old buildings. We have the traditional black or green boards. Teachers are using chalks, which add more difficulty to the teaching process. We have lack of the good internet connection. We have power cuts, electricity shortage. We have electricity like 8 hours on, 8 hours off. So this adds more difficulty to the teaching process. We have, as I mentioned before, a very bad internet connection, goes off from time to time. Also, we have challenges connected to teachers themselves. They are overloaded, and teaching such large amount of students, large numbers, adds more difficulties to the process. Because, you know, being responsible for teaching 200 or 300 students inside a school is something that makes you go crazy sometimes. I felt I'm going to be crazy. You know, they have their own problems. They have their own characteristics. I mean, young learners, teens have their own characteristics that you should be smart to deal with. Also, we have problems connected or challenges connected to the students themselves. As you might know, Gaza from time to time goes through very difficult situations. I mean, wars, continuous wars. My kids, for instance, who are enrolled in schools, have witnessed 4 wars, 4 destructive wars since 2014 till the moment. We had one the last month, 2 months ago. So such things really badly affects the students' motivation, their psychological issue. Also, we have a very bad financial situations that their families are going through. This also adds, make it really worse. So I've never thought that there is a magical solution for this, but once I've been enrolled with the Hands Up project in 2017 or 16, I guess, on my first time with Nick Bilbrow, on my first session, I was talking to myself, is it going to be possible to let him talk to 50 students. They were fourth graders. Yeah, fourth graders. I still remember that. So I was talking to myself, I think it's going to be crazy, giving him the chance to talk to them directly. I thought it's going to be impossible. But when he started his first words, just greeting them, saying hello, I was shocked when looking at their faces and noticing how motivated they were. They were struggling to get to the screen and talk to him. Please, teacher, tell me what to respond to him, how to talk to him. So it was a turning point in my profession, teaching profession. Since then, I learned that we should never assume that students can't do a task. We should give them the opportunity to try, to participate, and there is a magical solution, but we have to be thinking creatively. So we started this experiment in the start of the second quarter, as I still remember. Am I right, Wafa? Was it the second quarter of the first semester? Yeah, I think so. So we've started experiencing, is it going to work if we let foreigner volunteer to do a session, a weekly session for large classes? I mean, giving him the opportunity to practice performing the kind of communicative tasks. As you can see, the pictures shows how crowded the class were. So we have selected, we have picked two different classes, one for girls, one for boys. We had different samples. The teachers were like just facilitator. The volunteer, who was Nick, did a great job. The students' motivation, enjoyment, and different factors has recorded really good results. As you might see in the screen, this was a brainstorming session I did with one of my colleagues, Mu'taz Ismail, to check why do our students record bad results after studying English for 12 years? I mean, when they graduate from schools, they record bad results regarding or concerning the specifically the speaking skill. They can't produce the language. They are good at different skills like grammar, reading, listening, and writing, but they show really bad results when coming to real contexts. I mean, speaking in real context. So, with participation with too many professors and in partnership with the Faculty of Education at the Islamic University of Gaza, we did the brainstorming session. We did a survey to check the teachers' opinions about what do they think about English for Palestine. I mean, the teaching learning process. Very bad results for me as a teacher. I mean, it was really negative. We did lots of questions. One of them was, both teachers and students have adequate time to practice the language in the classrooms. So as you can see, 41.5 were disagreeing about this, 33.1 strongly disagree. And this is really catastrophic because, you know, if we didn't get enough time to practice, we're not going to learn anything. Could you please just move to the, here's the another question. which talk about the attitudes. Students show positive attitude and high interest towards learning English for Palestine. And here is another catastrophic result: 51.7% were disagreeing about this. So, which means that their attitudes, they have negative, very negative attitude towards learning English, which will lead them to failure in producing the language. So what we did inside the classes, I mean, the intercultural classes, large classes, was something unique for me and for the teachers. I guess we are going to listen to them about their own experience now. So I'm really happy with the results. I'm really happy.
Great. Thank you very much, Ashraf. Maybe we can come back to Wafa and Hussam at the end when Hussam has joined. Yeah. So I'll just carry on with, I just wanted to focus a little bit. Thank you very much, Ashraf, for that introduction and for setting the context in which we did the online link-ups. So just going back to English for Palestine a little bit, here's the book, English for Palestine. It's very similar to lots of other local course books published around the world. It's a great book, has lots of communicative activities in it, and it's very nicely localized. So it uses the context of Palestine in order to teach English. And this is a common feature of local course books around the world, as we know. So here's an example from grade 8. And that's the level that we were working with. So here's just one example of a task. It's a very nice task. It's very personalized. Does your dad talk about people you know, work in pairs, talk about people you know, ask and answer questions? It's the kind of thing we find in local communicative course books around the world. It's a great activity, but I think there are some problems with using this kind of activity in large monolingual classes. Now, one problem might be that this kind of activity is not actually that motivating for students to talk about. If you've got 50 students in a class like Gaza, most of those students have never been outside of Gaza. Most of those students have never traveled very much at all, and have not had much experiences of the outside world. Therefore, it's possibly not that motivating for them to talk about what their dad does, what he watches on TV, or what he does at the weekend, or that kind of thing, because it's going to be very similar. So there's an argument for linking to someone in another country just to kind of interculturalize it in some way. Now, there's another problem as well with this kind of activity. Here's another pair work activity. Say what is changing in your life. Schoolwork is getting more difficult. Yes, and I'm spending more and more time on homework. So here's an activity to practice present continuous, to talk about changes in their lives. It's a great personalized activity, but it's going to require some monitoring from the teacher, especially when you've got a class of 50 with a huge range of levels in that class. You might have some students for whom this task is very simple, and others for whom this is an extremely difficult task. How can a teacher with 50 students, so that's 25 different pairs doing this activity, how can a teacher possibly monitor what's going on in each of those pairs? It's almost an impossible task to do that. And it would take, if they were going to monitor every single pair of students, it would probably take up the whole class just to do this one activity. Another feature of English for Palestine, which is fantastic, is this cultural elements that are already included. So there are lots of activities that talk about Palestinian food, Palestinian dance, music. As we all know, Palestine has a very rich culture, and it's fantastic that that is included in the book. But it may not be that motivating for students to talk about Palestinian culture with each other. Would be far more motivating, in my opinion, if they could talk to other people around the world about their culture, share their culture with the world. So these ideas were kind of the things that we felt were problems, and that we could possibly improve by linking to a remote volunteer in the Hands Up project. Another issue, we think about the reading tasks in English for Palestine. So here's a great text, very interesting text in the unit, which is called Games Around the World. It's about football and the story of football. And it has some very nice tasks to go with it. Communicative, what we might call communicative reading tasks to go with the text. So games with teams that compete are not just a modern idea. So the idea is the students read the task, read the text, answer the questions, and then discuss their answers in pairs. Very nice and very communicative. However, there is a problem with lots of classes in English for Palestine, in that many of the kids have access to a translation of the reading texts. So all of the texts are translated into Arabic, and people can buy these books in, many shops in Palestine. This may be great for some learners because it may help them to access the language of English for Palestine, but it's not great for a communicative language class, because it means that if they've got a translation of everything in the text into Arabic, there's no point in them reading, and there's no point in them reading in English, and there's no point in them discussing their answers, because the answers are already there, provided for them in the Arabic. So let's focus now on what we did to try and address some of these problems. And here are my two brilliant co-teachers in Gaza, Wafa and Hussam. And I really need to emphasize the fantastic work that these two teachers are doing, working in incredibly challenging circumstances, as Ashraf has already outlined. 50 students in a class, very few resources, lack of electricity, crowded classroom, traumatized students. How can you possibly teach anything in such a context? But they do, and they do it with fantastic results. So really hats off to Wafa and Hussam for the great work that they're doing in a place like Gaza. So we looked at 3 units. We worked for about 8 weeks. We linked to the whole class, 4 classes, 2 classes of girls, 2 classes of boys, linked to me for 1 session a week, 1 40-minute session a week out of 5 40 sessions a week, 40-minute sessions a week. And we worked with 3 units in the course book. The first one is called How to Get Healthy. So we did lots of activities where we linked to the kids. The kids prepared pictures of their lifestyle, their healthy or unhealthy lifestyle. First of all, I shared pictures of my unhealthy lifestyle and talked about them. So I'm here showing my very healthy lunch, fish and chips, and and talking about how I live my life. And then I got the students to reflect on whether they thought it was healthy or unhealthy or not. And then they did similar things. So here's Farah coming up. They took it in turns to come up and talk to me about how about their lifestyle. So here's Farah talking about her daily exercise routine, telling me in front of the whole class what she does to keep fit. And another activity we did for this unit was students prepared a story of their healthy or unhealthy lifestyle. They did this at home, and there were lots of activities that they did outside of the sessions where they prepared things to talk about. And here's a student in one of the boys' groups telling me about his lifestyle, and I'm kind of acting what he told me. So my task was to physicalize what he said. We also did a nice activity where we asked, there was a topic, one of the language areas from this unit was about giving advice about healthy or unhealthy lifestyles. So what we did was we asked the students to prepare a mini dialogue between themselves about giving advice about lifestyle. And here we had 2 students. So the students then took it in turns to come up to the webcam and tell me about and perform their dialogue to me. And we gave a prize for the best acted dialogue. And I think it's important to note that, you know, we've got 50 students in the class. Not everyone can come up to the webcam and talk. Not everyone can have a chance to do that in every class. But look at the other students. They're all watching. They're all engaged in this activity. They're listening to their peers and they're supporting their peers as well. It's a lovely thing about classrooms in Palestine. It's a very, very supportive environment. The students are encouraging their peers. They're listening to what they're doing. And of course, Wafa is also there to support them, provide language when it's necessary. Another game that we did in this session was the classic ELT activity of 2 truths and a lie. So I presented, and this was to practice the present perfect continuous, which was one of the areas of language that was included in the course book. So I prepared 3 sentences about myself using the present perfect continuous. And then the students took it in turns to come up to the webcam and to ask me questions to try and work out where the lie was. And then we kind of swapped things around, and I asked the students to prepare their own present perfect continuous sentences, 2 of which were true and 1 was false. And then they took it in turns to come up to me, come up to the webcam and tell me their sentences. And I had to work out which one was true or which one was false, sorry. So here is one of the boys in the boys' class doing this activity.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
I have been playing.
First of all, what's your name?
My name is Ahmed.
Ahmed, yeah, Ahmed. Hi, Ahmed.
I have been playing at the mobile. I have been studying very well. I have been playing football every day and love it.
Great. So number 3, you've been playing football every day and you love it. Number 1, what was it? Can you repeat number 1?
I have been playing at the mobile.
Mm-hmm. And number 2?
I have been studying very well.
Okay. All right. So when you play on your mobile, what do you play?
Play card games.
Games. Okay.
Card games and
Card games. Okay.
strategy. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Okay. And how long have you had your mobile phone? How long? have you had it?
1 or 2 clocks in hour in days.
Oh, you play on your mobile phone for 1 hour or 2 hours every day. Okay. 1 or 2 hours every day. Okay. Oh, what was number 2? I've forgotten. Sorry, what was number 2?
I have been studying very well.
Which subjects have you been studying? English? Which subjects? English?
اسمع سؤال بقول English.
English.
انت هو بقول لك English. He said English or not.
ايش مش فاهم.
ايش المادة اللي بتدرسها؟
all.
All subjects. English, mathematics, science, everything.
Arabic, technology, all.
We'll have to ask your teacher if that's true or not. Have you been studying all the time for a long time? Have you been studying for a long time?
No.
Just recently?
Eh?
Recently?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's number 3 again? Tell me number 3.
I have been playing football and love it.
Oh, and you love it. I think that's true. I can see in your face that you love football. I think number 3 is true. I think that number 2 is true. I think number 1 is false.
No.
No?
Number 3.
Number 3? Really? You don't like football?
I don't love football.
Wow, not at all. Okay, well done. Brilliant. Fantastic. So that means Gaza team are the winners.
Yes.
Yes.
3-2.
Oh, yes.
Brilliant. Well done. So, I mean, just look at I think there's lots of things to talk about in relation to that. First of all, just the motivation that comes from playing a game and beating the teacher, beating their team, beat me, which was great. Look at the opportunities for scaffolding that can happen there. Ahmed is really at the edge of his ability to use English to communicate. And he's getting lots of support from the teacher, from Hussam in the room with him. And this is great. So it's really putting students at the edge of their abilities to communicate and supporting them and them managing to achieve it. The next unit that we looked at in the course book was people and games. And we did lots of activities to relate to this topic. And we were very lucky, actually, because the World Cup was going on while we were doing this unit. So there was lots to talk about in relation to that. One of the things we did in the intercultural sessions was we linked to young people in Bosnia, Germany, Romania, and Spain. And we did a very quick activity where they talked about sport in Gaza versus sport in Bosnia, say. And this was quite motivating for the students because they met people. They didn't meet old people like me. They met people of their own age who they could share ideas with. We did a lot of students versus teachers games. So here's an activity. I prepared some questions to ask the class about sport and games around the world. And they got a point if they got the question right. And then I got a point if they got it wrong. And here's an interesting moment for me, because here's one of the questions: how many different pieces are there in a chess game? This student, I think his name was Mohammed. He was one of the students who was quite quiet in the class, but he knew the answer to this question, and he was really proud of that he knew the answer, and he came up and told me the answer. So you know, there's a lot of opportunities to kind of bring out knowledge of the students and to share that and to celebrate it in these kind of sessions. So we then reverse things and ask the students to prepare questions to ask me about sport and games around the world. And I'm just going to play a little video of that. This is some of the questions that they asked me in this. Whoops.
Hello, Nick.
Hello. How are you?
Fine, thanks.
Great.
My name's Asma.
Asma. Hi, Asma. Really nice to see you. Okay.
Who is the best European girl tennis player in 2022? Who is the best European girl tennis player in 2022?
Who is the best Arabian? Was it Arabian? Did you say?
Yes.
Who's the best Arabian tennis player in 2002? Ooh, okay. Tell me the options.
1. Rania Alwani. 2.
Yeah.
Farida Othman. 3. Uns Gaber.
I think it's Rania Omani.
No, false.
No? Okay. Who was it then?
Uns Gaber.
Ons Jabba. Which country? Which country?
She's from Tunisia.
Ah, from Tunisia. Is she still playing now?
Yes.
Is she very good? She's very good.
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, great. Excellent question. Excellent question. Well done. Well done. Hello, how are you?
Fine. I'm fine.
Fine, brilliant.
My name's Ra.
Ra. Go on then, Ra. Give me your question. Is it
Okay.
easy or difficult?
What is the traditional Palestinian game for girls? What is the traditional Palestinian game for girls?
What is the traditional Palestinian game for girls? That's a really good question.
Number 1, Idris. Or number 2, arm bowling. Number 3, Sukar Bukar.
Can you say them all again? Can you say them again?
Okay. Idris or arm bowling or Sukar Bukar.
Soccer hokka.
Sukar Bukar.
I'm going to say soccer hokka because I like the sound of it.
Yes.
Is it right? Soccer hokka. What is soccer hokka? What is it? Come back. Come back. What is soccer hokka? Though. Soccer hokka, what is it? Ah, okay.
Sukar Bukar. Bayan Sukar Jalala. Wal Said.
Wow. That's a game that you play in schools in Palestine. Yeah, like in the break, you play this.
Yes.
In the wow, and who plays it? So, you know, interesting, isn't it? How motivating it can be for students when they're teaching me something. So they're taking on the role of the teacher. They're teaching me something which is very interesting for me about their culture. So, you know, actually it's not soccer hokka, is it? Soccer bokar. But it's sort of interesting how it brings back memories for me of my own childhood and seeing kids playing similar types of clapping games in the school that I went to when I was a child.
Hello, Nick.
Hello.
So the next topic in the course book was called Friends, and there's a lot of language in here about talking about describing a friend, talking about somebody that you care about. And it was quite difficult to choose something. I was a bit stuck for ideas for this one because I didn't want to make it really kind of too personal. So I didn't want students to talk about things that might be distressing for them. I'm very grateful to Haneen Jadala, who was provided lots of ideas for these sessions. And one of them that she suggested was asking students to talk about a person that they cared a lot about. And then they could take it as far as they wanted to then. So here's one of the boys in the boys' class talking about a person that he cared a lot about, and this is his grandfather. And this is really the first time that he had ever tried to express himself in English. And I think it's really interesting that at the beginning, he was coming up to the webcam, he'd prepared at home his talk about his grandfather, and he'd prepared to talk about it, to just read out what he's written. But I think it's fantastic what Hussam did, because Hussam pushed him not to read it, but to actually just tell me what he could. And obviously, we all know that that is going to be much more useful for language learning and for real communication, rather than just reading out what he's already written. So here it goes.
بدون ما تقرا, without reading, some small points, few points about him. معلومات عنه. ايش وين الولد؟ ايش بيعمل؟ زي
he is its name Badr.
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 Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Great.
And he from is Palestine.
Yeah. Okay.
And he seven children, six girls and one boy.
Okay.
He passed in he passed in away in 2018.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I'm sorry. Is he your father's father or your mother's father?
Yes.
father's or mother's father?
Father's father.
Your father's father. And what was his job? What was his job?
ايش كان يشتغل؟
Teacher maths.
He was a maths teacher, really? Wow. In a school? For children?
Yes. Yes.
That's great. That's great. Show me a picture of him, please. Can you show me the picture of him? Can you show me the picture of him? Wow. He looks so nice. He looks such a nice man. He looks so kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me tell you what I remember about your grandfather. You tell me if I'm right, okay? So he was called Badr. Badr,
Yes.
and he had 7 children,
Yes.
6 daughters and 1 son.
Yes.
And the son is your father,
Yes.
and he died. God rest his soul, rest in peace. He passed away in 2018,
Passed away in 2018.
Yes.
and he was Palestinian,
Yes.
and he used to be a maths teacher in a school.
Yes.
Do you know where he was born in Palestine? Do you know where in Palestine he was born?
اسمها
ايش المنطقة؟
اسمها
ليش؟
حمامة.
Amama. Where's that in is that in Gaza?
No.
No. حمامة.
Mama. Okay. So he moved to Gaza. He moved to Gaza. Did
Yes.
he?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. That is so good. Thank you so much. That's really excellent. Great. Really good job. Well done. Excellent. And that's very, I wanted to play that until the end because it's very moving for me that he gets a round of applause from the whole class for doing that, because they know what a big thing that was for Badr to do that. Both from a linguistic point of view, challenging himself to speak about something that was very difficult for him, but also the content of it, talking about a person who he's loved and lost and sharing it with me, a foreigner, so there's something very powerful going on there. Another idea that we had to activate some of the language in the course book was talking about a moment when students felt really proud, happy, excited, worried, etc. And this is in Wafa's class, Farah, talking about a moment when her dad came back from Mecca. And again, these are prepared things. They've gone home, they've prepared to talk about this. And then some of the students have had the opportunity to talk to me in front of the whole class.
Hello,
Hello,
my name is Farah.
Farah.
Good morning.
Good morning, Farah.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Fine, thanks you. When I was happy
You were very happy. When was this?
when my father came back. When my father came back from Maxwell Hut, I was happy.
Okay. When he came back from where?
Mecca.
Mecca. He went.
للحج.
Yeah, he went on the Hajj to Mecca.
Yes.
Great. How long did he go for?
One
No.
month.
1 month. He went for 1 month. Okay. So when did he come back?
Let's stay here 2 hours. Oh, yes. Last year.
Last year. So he went to Mecca for 1 month and then he came back.
Yeah.
So you must have missed him a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. Did he go alone to Mecca? Did he go alone?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what did he bring anything back for you to give you? Did he bring you a present?
Yes. Ring.
What-
Ring
what-
and toys.
Ring
Ring and toys.
and toys. He brought you some toys.
Yes.
You mean a ring for the finger?
Yes.
Ring. Oh, nice.
Yes.
Wow. So I don't understand exactly, but does everybody have to go to Mecca once in their life?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Islam.
In Islam, yeah. So will you go to Mecca
No.
in the future?
Yes.
In the future, yeah. Okay. How did he go to Mecca? By
Plane.
airplane. Okay. Wow.
Plane from Egypt.
From Egypt. Okay. Yeah. Must be very expensive, right? To go to Mecca.
A lot.
A lot, yeah. Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Thank you so much, Farah,
You.
for telling me that story. Goodbye. Fantastic. Now, I just wanted to comment really briefly on something there in that video. Of course, there's the same thing that we talked about in the last video, which is sharing the culture and teaching me something about Islam. And I think that's a really good thing for students to do. But just thinking about in terms of language, now course books tend to focus on areas of language in isolation. You know, we're practicing the present perfect continuous, we're practicing do questions, we're practicing you know, vocabulary related to food or something like that. What this, I think if we look at the language that's being used in that short conversation, there's so many areas of language being used, so many different types of questions. We're talking about the past, we're talking about the future, we're talking about the present, we're talking about different areas of vocabulary. So it's a very rich and also personalized context in which to activate language. Now, I know I've been talking for a lot, and I'm really sorry that I've go on and on and on and on and on. But I just feel quite excited about it. But I think it's time now that we opened it up to everyone, and also especially to Hussam and Wafa, because they haven't had a chance to speak at all yet. And also, let me just make sure everyone can turn on everyone should be able to speak. Also, you know, if anybody's got any questions they'd like to ask. Brilliant. Oh, Hussam is here. Hi, Hussam. Hi. How you doing? Great.
Hi.
So, Wafa and Hussam, over to you, really. Would you like to just comment on this experience?
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back again. I'm very happy today to meet you all. Thank you for giving me this a chance to participate with this project, this excellent project. As Mr. Ashraf told before, it was at first I was really scared. Oh, what would my students do? Is it okay? Can they participate well? They don't speak English very well. It's not our mother tongue, you know, it's Arabic. And there are lots of low achievers, but by the time they can get their good works and performance very well. And I will never forget this in all my life.
Thank you very much, Wafa. Thank you. And I must just say, it was such a pleasure to work with you, and thank you for all the brilliant ideas that you suggested for the activities. It's a real honor to work with you in this. So now over to another fantastic teacher, Hussam. We've already seen the great things that he's doing in the sessions, and we can hear him in the background supporting the learners, encouraging them. How was this experience for you and your learners, Hussam?
First of all, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Hassan.
I think it's a very enjoyable experience. It's a very interesting one. I can see in my teacher eyes that they were very interested to be in this experience. I don't think I can add something for what Wafa said. Everything was very enjoyable, and it can be the first and the most interesting experience I had in my life.
Thanks very much, Hussam. Well, that's great. So could I just open it up now to anyone else? Anybody got any questions that they'd like to ask? Or did you want to say something, Ashraf?
I mean, we have said a lot. I mean,
yeah,
it would be lovely if the participants just raised some questions or shared ideas, whatever.
Yeah.
I think Maria has the same experience with her students, as they are not English people. I mean, she has linked her students with students in Gaza out of Argentina. So I think she shares the same experience somehow.
We can't hear you, Terry. You're not muted, but we can't hear you. Okay, there's some kind of problem with the session. I don't know what it is, but there's some problem. I think
have to leave. Yeah, she has to leave the meeting and go back again.
Yeah. Or maybe you could just write it in the chat. There's something, I think it's about Zoom being updated or something. There's something, and probably the same problem we're going to have for Ken as well. And I should also say that in Argentina, it's not even 6 o'clock in the morning yet. So thanks very much to Terry for coming at such an early hour on a Saturday morning. Ken, is that the same for you, that you can't unmute yourself? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, great. Okay.
It's all working.
Can we hear you now, Terry? No, I can't hear you. Maybe you could try leaving and coming back. That worked for Ashraf earlier. Okay, Ken, have you got any comments or questions that you'd like to ask to anyone?
Well, I'm just still internalizing these thoughts. As you know, I'm relatively new to being a volunteer with HAPS, and to understand the enormity of the problem of teaching large classes has been put over to me. It's something that moves me to tears in one way, but I'm so in admiration of these people, you know, Hussam, Wafa, and of course Ashraf, and the amount of work. I'm just starting to appreciate what's going on here. And I've got to say, it's a real honor and privilege to be connected with this.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. Great. Thank you, Ken. Does it work now, Terry? No, I think you might, the only way you can do it is leave and come back, but maybe you could if you've got a question or a comment, you could write it in the chat and we could read it out. Do we have anyone else in the room who has any questions? I'm really sorry about there seems to be something strange about this session that people cannot speak, which is a shame because we'd love to hear voices from people around the world who are watching. So Terry's saying, it's amazing what you've been doing with the kids in Palestine. Great, yeah, certainly is. And, you know, I'd just say while we're waiting for anything else, we do really want to work more in this way from September. We've also been researching this. So we've been looking at the impact on motivation and confidence of the learners, and the results are incredibly positive for the whole class, all the students in the class. But we're not going to, that will be a separate webinar, and the research team, that's Ashraf, Haneen and Andre, will be presenting the results of that research. And we'll also be presenting it at our conference in Gaza, which will be happening in just less than 3 weeks now. Great. Okay.
There is a very nice question by Terry.
Yeah.
He's wondering, how do we try mistakes? Am I right? Is that what you mean? Yeah. Well, let me answer this. Lots of teachers here making it worse when they start focusing on the students who make mistakes. Usually I ask or I recommend my teachers to avoid assuming that their students can't do the task. This is one thing. The other thing, never, ever, never, ever put your whole focus on students' mistakes. Let them make mistakes. By time pass, they will overcome those kind of mistakes. There are different ways to deal with mistakes, like repeating their answers correctly. I mean, you as a teacher, making it as some kind of a questions to others. Is he right? What do you think about what did he say? Is it better to say it like this or that? So there are different ways of dealing with mistakes, but I mean, try to ignore them, give them the chance to speak, focus more on speaking, not on mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think, thank you, Ashraf, for your answer, which was really good for me. Maybe we try to do the same, try to repeat the mistake so the student realize what the mistake is. But another important thing here, and I think it's very interesting, that while the students are doing something with Nick, for example, with a remote teacher, the teacher who is next to them can hear how their students are speaking
Make
or are
mistakes.
Yes, exactly. And then they can work on those mistakes or anything in the class, and they can reinforce the learning or what they are learning. So it's fantastic because it gives a lot of opportunities. And when something which I loved about the activities you did with the students, the activities were real communication, because they spoke about something they care about, what they live, what they like, what they love. And that is what our students need. I feel more or less in the same situation, because when we're working with the course book, it's not easy to
Ignore mistakes.
make the student, they are living another life with the course book. It's not real for them. For example, years ago, I remember I taught about the Queen of England. Yes, that's fantastic. It's culture, but it is not interesting for them because it is not their life. It's not. So when the conversations with a real context, that was because it is relevant for the students.
Yeah.
That's why they wanted to speak, because they had something interesting or important for them to say. And that is fantastic.
Yeah. And I just want to pick up on something you said there, Terry, because I think that's really important. Well, what you've said about the importance of people talking about their real lives, not the lives of the characters in the course book. It's much more meaningful if they're talking about their grandfather, real people, real experiences that they've had. That's going to make the learning much more powerful. But I also want to comment on language. Now, in a class such as Gaza, such as a Palestinian classroom, 50 students, there is always going to be a kind of Palestinian way of speaking English, just as there is an Argentinian way of speaking English. And everybody in that culture understands that.
Yeah.
So Wafa and Hussam will understand the mistakes that their students make because they're used to that. However, there'll be things, because I don't know about that culture, that's an advantage in a way in terms of learning. Because there'll be times when I don't understand what the students are saying to me, because I'm not used to the accent, or I'm not used to the cultural differences. That's a great thing, isn't it? That I fail to understand things, because that's where the learning happens. The student has to reformulate, they have to try and say it in a different way. And this is where learning happens, in my opinion.
Yes.
So, brilliant. Wow. Maybe that's a good point to end, unless anybody has anything else they want to say. We've got a few other people in the room. Any questions from anyone else in the room? We've got Bill here, Carly. We did have Madiha here in Pakistan, but I think she's left now. Okay, well, I think if we don't have any more questions or comments, it's just left for me to say thank you very much for all the participants around the world. Thank you to the people who've joined us on Facebook and who will watch the recording later. But most of all, thank you again to Ashraf for organizing this whole thing. And thank you especially to Hussam and Wafa for making this happen in your classes. You've had extremely busy schedules, masses of hours that you've been teaching. And, to do this in these circumstances is incredible. So great work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Goodbye. Thank you very much.
Bye.